Oh, hey there, guys. First things first, sorry for being so handsome. I have a presentation today, so that's why I'm gorgeous. We seem to be unwilling to punch laterally and punch down, but we have no problem punching up. No one castigates homeless people. No one makes fun of the poor kid. No one makes fun of those who are handicapped. No one makes fun of retards. No one makes fun of anyone that they perceive to be lower in status than they are, in whatever way you define status. I'm curious, and at the same time I'm inclined to think I know why public servants, government bureaucrats, people who are a part of the state that rules over us, and those who lick the boots of that government are reluctant to point out when Christians are being persecuted. There is a fundamental idea in Christianity that's uniquely Christian that makes them less susceptible or less amenable to governance than other people. Maybe it's an intrinsic quality of the people who subscribe to Christianity and who have over time. But Christians do not see the state as the ultimate authority. They see one God, one creator God, as the ultimate authority, and the state as subservient to that. The libertarian aspect, the conservative aspect, the small government side, the right wing that we are painting as the villain repeatedly, is not amenable to governance. They seek the smallest government possible that can still preserve the rights of the individual to do what is laid out in the Constitution as the responsibilities of government: national defense and the preservation of individual life, liberty, and property. Those are the functions of the state. That could be funded in under $1 billion a year if we really wanted to do it. But people seem to be pacifist. Maybe this is the result of programming, maybe this is nature, maybe this is a consequence of living in the easiest times that have ever existed. And the reason for those easy times is Christianity. I'm not going to defend Christianity in the belief that someone was resurrected, in the belief that there is a God that exists outside reality that created everything within it. I think there's a strong argument to be made. Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis makes a pretty powerful argument logically for the existence of God. And we'll do away with it because what does that mean? That means I'm accountable for my own actions. That means that I'm going to be responsible at some point for all of the things I did that I knew I shouldn't do. Someone is going to hold me accountable, whether we call that karma, whether we call it justice, whether we call it St. Peter examining our record, whether all of our sins are laid out before our eyes at some point. However we spell that out, it means individual responsibility, and this is something that's codified only in Western Christian nations, of which you are a part, of which your value system is integral. You wouldn't have the values that you have, that people should be let to do what they want to do as long as they're not hurting others. That's a Christian belief, whether you like it or not. And it may have predated Christianity, but the Christians codified it, and the Christians articulated, and the Christians built monuments to that idea. The most beautiful art, the most beautiful architecture, the most beautiful music, and the best fucking societies on the planet. Inarguably. Name another place that compares with where you want to live, with where the whole world is trying to get to live. The castle on the hill is Western Constitutional Republic. The United States is the glass tower. It's Mecca. It's the Gilded City. It's Oz. Why? Why is it that other societies and other people are unable to replicate or unwilling to replicate what we have built in Western societies? We have the most freedom, the most advanced technology, the highest quality of life. We say that our medical system's fucked, but when these virtue signaling celebrities are overseas and they need, I need to have an adenoma removed, guess where they're going? The United States. And that's because our medical system is balanced between this socialist utopian vision of universal health care and the private market. The private market is buoying the other half up. I'm swimming as hard as I can, and I have the dead weight of some socialist fuck holding onto my leg and keeping me to where I'm barely above the water. That's the healthcare system in the United States. And for some reason we say, well, look at the Scandinavian countries as an example. Yeah, look at the Scandinavian countries over the next 10 years. Because those Scandinavian countries have just gone from one specific type of person to two specific types of person. And the second specific type of person is going to wreck that economy. Because they're consuming welfare benefits and social benefits and federally subsidized benefits at a vastly disproportionate rate to the native population. And at some point, the native population is going to say, fuck this. And Atlas is going to shrug. We blot that out of our minds. And we say, well, there are no differences between individuals. Everyone is equally capable of painting a Mona Lisa. Everyone is equally capable of building a Sistine Chapel. Everyone is equally capable of constructing English common law and an interstate highway system and the most advanced medicine on the planet. Everyone can do that. Well, why don't they? We are happy to punch up. And who's up? Western Christian societies. And we'll happily divorce those two ideas and say that one is not a consequence of the other. While we speak from our ivory tower that was constructed by the bodies of the people who came before us. Whether you know it or not, you're Christian. Your value system is Christian. You may not believe that Christ died and was resurrected. You may not believe in a single God who's a creator, but every aspect of your being was built by a combination of your genetics and your environment. And your environment is undeniably Christian. Sorry. Sorry, atheist. Sorry, agnostic. You can say that Buddhism is the best, but you benefit from all of the consequences of Christianity and Enlightenment thinking. Why is there no Notre Dame Cathedral in North Korea? Why isn't there one in Africa, in South America, in Central America? Why is there nothing that is scratching the surface of that level of articulation of the divine? Why? Why doesn't it happen there? Is it colonialism? Is it somehow we're oppressing the whole planet and preventing them from banding together to build monuments to excellence? I don't know. I don't think so. I think those things are uniquely Christian. And so these government puppets and their lackeys that I mentioned at the beginning are happy to say that white people are to blame for Christchurch. That all white people need to be held accountable for Christchurch. Goody two-shoes, headhunters, hello guys. It's easy for us to point to this group of people and say that they are to blame and they need to be castigated and they need to be reprimanded and they need to be held accountable as a collective for the actions of an individual. Hillary Clinton, ABC News, Barack Obama, all these fucking puppets. The Christchurch shootings need to be laid directly at the feet of white people, of Christians, of right-wing extremists. And this is just, it's code language. Nobody knows what a right-wing extremist is. They think Hitler was right-wing and he was a fucking socialist. So you can't, language matters, and language is wizardry. Owen Benjamin lays this out perfectly in his podcast. If you just YouTube Owen Benjamin wizards, he talks about it at length and how language is used to manipulate people. And it's effectively magic. We don't know how it works. We don't know how mouth sounds influence our thinking in some way, but it does. It's changing your vibe. And so when these people come out and say, yes, this was perhaps a terror attack, we can't jump to any conclusions, and perhaps Easter worshipers are the primary target of this maybe terrorist attack. When it was Christchurch, it was a alt-right neo-Nazi white supremacist who attacked a very specific group of people, Muslims. Muslims are the victim, the oppressor is the white man. That's easy. That's easy because I'm punching up. White men built the most advanced societies around the planet. Give me an exception. Is that because they're better? I don't fucking know. I don't think I'm any better than anyone else. I'm a mutt just like all of you are. So I have who knows what. Who knows what. I'd send my DNA to Ancestry.com, but they're going to sell it to Mark Zuckerberg. And if a set of triplets can send their DNA samples to Ancestry.com and Ancestry.com returns 3 different phylogenies for those people, you lost me. Why can't Hillary Clinton say that this was an Islamic terror attack targeting Christians in Sri Lanka? Why can't Barack Obama say this was an Islamic terror attack targeting Christians in Sri Lanka? Why can we not look at the thousands of Muslim terror attacks that have already occurred this year and say that, well, perhaps there's a problem with the doctrine of Islam? If Christians were suicide bombing people and burning churches to the ground, you understand what the tweet would say. Christian extremists target Muslims, target black people, target Hispanics, target women, target Asians. Oppressor class punching up is punching down oppressed class. The victim and the victimizer, the have and the have not, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, the rich and the poor. This dichotomy that in reality only exists when we lump people into categories based on our own subjective criteria. These groups don't exist. We make these groups. I have no idea what my race is. I know what it feels like. I know what kind of literature and art and poetry appeals to me. I know what other people who look like me look like. So my subjective experience is that of a European person living in the West, the greatest society ever built. But this persecution of people who don't lend themselves well to governance is not a new phenomenon. The Christians were persecuted in Rome. The Cathars were persecuted. The Gnostics are persecuted. Anyone that says, you aren't daddy, government, daddy is not visible. Daddy is everywhere and always forever. And you can't touch him. And you can't get a hold of it and sell it to me. This was the revelation of Luther, right? You don't have to pay a priest to be saved. Read the fucking book. We're going to transcribe the Bible so that you can read primary sources instead of taking my word for it and paying me for a blessing. You fucking idiot. Muslims have been persecuted. Catholics have been persecuted. Christians have been persecuted. Buddhists have been persecuted. Everyone's been persecuted. Everyone's been enslaved. And yet, we're thinking of this little slice of history to say, here's the victim, here's the victimizer. And our school system is set up in such a way that that's the way we're learning history. We're not placing ourselves in the boots of the Stasi. We're not placing ourselves in Che Guevara's boots when he's blasting the head off an infant. We refuse to empathize with what we perceive to be the villain. We're taught this person's the villain, this person is the victim. Empathize with the victim. What does that do to your mentality? Kanye West, Candace Owens are screaming this at the top of their lungs. Stop being a fucking victim. Stop identifying with the victim in the story, and it's going to change your whole world. But what does that do? If you're not a victim, you don't need a hand up from government. If you know that that hand is abstract, it's intangible, it's coming from something that is superordinate to what you perceive as the ultimate authority in the land, that's a problem for the government. That is a problem for anyone who seeks to rule you. I have to detach you from your roots. I have to detach you from any adherence or any concept of the logos. I have to detach you from all of those things and make you see yourself as an individual and a victim. And then what do? I've created a problem, observed the reaction, and now I offer you the solution, and that is to give me power. Asinine. And it's crazy because I don't think I'm that much smarter than anyone else, and yet these patterns are glaring. Maybe I'm just handsome and smart. Let's see what you guys got here. They went into emergency reform. I don't know what you mean by that, goody two-shoes. They just went into emergency reform. When you wrote that, I was probably saying something and it would click instantly, but I was following this thought train. Maybe I can summarize this. I know that was probably a bunch of different directions at one. This is just a stream of consciousness. But punching up like treason is a matter of dates. Alexander Dumas in The Count of Monte Cristo has a character who is the father of the man who has the protagonist imprisoned. He allies himself with Napoleon and believes that Napoleon is a righteous actor. And his justification for committing what his son perceives to be treason is that treason is a matter of dates. The same holds true for the oppressor mindset. So, is it better for your psychology and the psychology of your children and their children and those around you to view yourself and behave as if you are a victim or a victor? Winners don't surround themselves with losers. You guys have a good day. We'll see you.